Welcome to the verbal stylings of me. I am your host. I don't know why I start off feeling like, okay, I have to do this thing. I can feel it. I can feel the channeling. I can feel divine presence. I feel like, it's time to do the thing. And then as soon as I start pressing record, I just start fucking laughing at myself like an idiot. I don't know. Anyway, it's whatever o'clock in the morning of an ungodly hour, wherever the hell I am at. That is vacation for me. And normally I'm like running to grab the oracle and the tarot decks, but I had a very auspicious event occur where my lovely mother interpreted my flippant conversational verbalization of desire for a book as me being a brat and asking for it, and went ahead and bought it for me. So thank you, Mother, for creating a brat out of me. I truly was only saying that I really wanted the book because I was talking about the African Goddess Rising book with her, and I was just like, yeah, another book that I definitely want. The forward is by this woman who wrote this book, Shallow Waters. And I told my mom, like, I really want that book. And then, like, her response to me was, it'll be there on Monday or something like that. And I was like, thanks. And she's like, yeah, I knew you wanted it. I'm like, I mean, I did, but, like, I hope I'm not that kind of a brat. I mean, it worked out for me right now, but please understand, like, I'd just be talking. So, yeah, I just, like, the ebb and flow of going from a child to an adult offspring, as my bestie puts it, is pretty fun. Anyways, so as a fellow adult offspring, good vibes to you. I actually really don't even know what to say. Like, good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Good vibes to you, my fellow awakers. I'm gonna read a book that I've never read before to you as a bedtime story. And we'll just stop when the vibes say to stop. And hopefully this little moment we share together will help you feel good and calm, even if it's not a good and calm story. We're gonna just try. I don't know. Let's see. Alright, so let's do a thing. Don't do as I say and not as I do, children. I'm drinking Mountain Dew Baja Blast in the middle of the whatever this is. But you need to drink some water or some tea, get cozy in a blanket, get comfortable, and let the honey bunny do the work of helping lull you to sleep. I don't have music because I'm actually in my own type of like calm vibe. So I'm hopeful that just, if whatever natural noises that you hear in the background don't pick up in the video and you can't hear it, then I hope that the energy that I bring to this particular style of reading will translate well for you. Anyways, he goes. Shallow Waters. Prologue. A long grunt escapes my lips. My body is numb. I cough up the last gulp of water I had taken in and held before I passed out. As I sluggishly blink my eyes, one thought repeats in my mind. I have to break through as soon as possible. I didn't need to breathe during the transformation, but now my need for air is urgent. My nerves awaken me from the outside. I can feel the change in my body. Everything is different. My eyes are dry. I blink a few more times in the darkness, working to clear away the crust that has formed over my lashes. Slowly, I become aware of a dim light penetrating the shell of my cocoon. The sun's rays reveal a complex webbing within the shell's walls, strong enough to withstand the ocean's waves. My body stirs, and I can feel the shrunken cocoon chafing against my skin. I pull away from the rough interior. Something's wrong. I'm lying on my back, and I can feel the pod is still no longer bobbing along the ocean's surface. I have to get out now. I push with every molecule of my body, but it's no use. The shell is hard as rock. I fumble in the darkness, trying to find the last section of the cocoon that I had sealed, in hopes that it might be a bit softer. My fingers meet at the top of the pod, and I use my thumbnail to puncture a small hole. A bright beam of sunlight streams in and momentarily blinds me. As I had suspected, there is no water. I begin to panic. Where am I? I need the ocean's pressure to help me break through the shell. I frantically chip away at the small hole and attempt to push one of my newly developed legs out. The sensation of being able to move my lower limbs independently throws me off balance. They flail weakly as I try to maneuver them over my body to thrust them up and out. Although I've watched humans walk and dance and kick, I don't know how to use these new limbs on my own. I grip the backs of my smooth thighs with my hands and pull my knees toward my chest. It's so strange to feel skin and not scales, to have no control over what was once my powerful finned tail. I position my feet against the top of the cocoon and I kick the damaged shell with all my strength. The debris shatters away from my body. Stunned by the bright sunlight again, I clamp my eyes shut and roll over. I strain to push myself up, and I wobble as I attempt to stand steady. For the first time in my life, I am vertical, held upright by 2 feet. I squint through the tears and I'm terrified to see that I'm surrounded by a pack of them. Humans who I do not recognize. They don't look like the ones from my home, but I am somewhat relieved to see that they do not look like the pirates either. I am completely exposed. My body trembles so violently. I'm afraid I will collapse. Damn. Sorry. I've literally never read this book before. Okay. Chapter 1. Him. 3 months earlier. The coarse net hits my face and abruptly thrusts me into my bleak reality. I fight with all my might, but it makes no difference. I am ripped from the water. The sting of the crisp morning air shocks me and makes it easy for the fisherman to pull me aboard his splintery boat. His eyes are the first thing I notice. They are deep and dark, like the mysterious realms of the ocean. His hands are gentle and warm, so I surrender to his touch. His coarse hair holds perfect droplets of water as if cradling them until they fall and return to the sea. His skin is so black, I can see a hint of the brilliant blue coral reflected in them. There is something oddly familiar about him. He lifts the net, gapes at me, and yells something to his friends on the shore. I try to cover my ears because his voice is too loud. Everything is muted in the sea. His deafening tone ignites my will to survive. I begin breathing to free myself, and I manage to flip out of the boat. On the way out, my tail dashes the top edge, and I return to the sea amid the wreckage. When I look back, he is leaning over the side of the boat, his eyes alert, and he is breathing heavy. Before he turns back to his companions on the far side of the reef, he spots me. I hold my breath, and I think he does too. We are frozen in that moment, our eyes glued to each other until his friends come to rescue him. I retreat back to the ocean floor. His boat returns the next morning, patched with fresh strips of palm wood. I watch as he releases his net into the waters. His strong hands grip the trap, pulling any array of sea life aboard. As he turns to assess his catch, I see the scars on the back of his neck. 3 straight horizontal slashes. Obatala. 10 years have passed since the last time our eyes met. I had erased that day from my memory, but Obatala's scars have reopened deep wounds. My father knew how much I loved the shells lined with iridescent mother of pearl, the shells that could only be found in the shallow waters beyond the reef. I had 6 of them, 1 for each year of my life. He left early on the morning of my 7th birthday to fetch my gift, promising to be home before our first meal. We lived in the depths of the sea, in a cave with limited access to the light of day. Mother and I waited until the sun was high above the water. When he didn't return home, my mother decided to go search for him. She made me promise to stay, but as soon as she left, I stealthily followed her into the forbidden waters. Brilliant red coral was scattered throughout the reef, and a school of small yellowfish with black spots darted in and out through the maze. Unlike our home in the cold, dark ocean, the shallows were bathed in sunlight. I caught the flicker of my mother's tail as she dove beyond the ridge. I navigated through the coral to follow her to the other side, where the sea was deeper. Mother forged forward. The sand beneath us seemed to bubble as we drew closer to land. My eyes darted. Between my mother and the gurgling sea floor, something was wrong. Before I had time to warn her, a fog of sand engulfed us. Within seconds, an enormous net dragged me and all the surrounding sea creatures toward the shore. I struggled to find my mother, but it was no use. The coral reef disappeared in the distance. A human boy, around my age, dove into the water. As he was examining his catch, our eyes met, and he choked on the seawater. I watched him struggle up to the surface, where he gulped air, but he quickly returned to stare at me. He pulled a small knife from his belt and began to cut through the rope around me. There was still no sign of my mother. The boy finally cut a hole large enough to release me. I frantically searched the net for my mother as the animals filed out of this tattered hole. I grabbed on to the twisted rope in desperation. The boy pulled me off just in time to prevent me from being pierced by a long, sharp spear. He urgently motioned for me to flee. A huge man dove into the water to retrieve his spear and patch the hole in the net. I swam away as fast as I could, far enough to make sure I was safe. When I was a fair distance from the shore, I watched the man scold the young boy. He raised his voice, and I heard him scream the name Obatala. The man wrenched Obatala around, pushing him to his knees, and pulled a heavy rope from around his own waist. He hit Obatala across his hands until he cried out in agony. As Obatala's back was toward me, I could see 3 horizontal scars at the base of his neck. They were raised and discolored and looked like the gills of a shark. Obatala screamed in pain and defiance as he crumbled to the ground. For years after, I heard his wails in my nightmares. I wanted to save him, as he had saved me, but I couldn't rise from the sea to do so. I felt a deep connection with him, like he knew me somehow, in a way no one ever had. There were lines of fishermen pulling in the net he had rescued me from, so I had to stay out of sight. I cursed my helplessness as my tears mixed with the seawater. Despite my fear of the shallow waters and the fishermen with their nets and long spears, I returned to that place beyond the reef over and over, hoping to find my parents and to see the boy who'd saved me. It seemed as though he was more like me than any other creature I had ever known. I could see myself in him. Even though he was human, He looked like me, the part of me above my fin and scales. He looked like he could have been a part of my family, a family who I had lost. The 6 iridescent seashells my father had found for me in the shallow waters are my most precious possessions, and at the same time cause me unending pain. When I look at them and hold them in my palms, I feel my parents' souls still with me. They remind me to keep track of each passing birthday, although I'm not sure why I continue to count. Mother and father vanished before they could explain to me what I was. Not fully human, but also not a seal animal like those we swam alongside in the depths each day. I never met another creature like us. We were mer, unlike any other beings we encountered in our days together. My mother would never explain more when I asked about where we came from. She would simply smile and say, "You're special, Yemaya. One day, you will know why." I knew my questions made her uncomfortable, but I wanted to understand why we were so different. I waited years for an answer, but Obatala finally is a clue. My fluttering heart tells me so. I spy Obatala from my hiding place on the other side of a large jetty. A nearly unbearable yearning makes me want to reach up and gently trace the strong, slightly raised veins on his forearms. I sit in my longing, paralyzed by this new feeling. How could he and I ever be together? His life is completely different from my own. I cannot join him on land, and he could never survive the waters I call home. Something I cannot fully describe is growing inside me. My heart hurts every time I think about the disturbance we can never erase. Nonetheless, I return every day to watch him fish, feeling more connected each time. I often tremble when I first lay eyes on him. He is no longer a boy. He has returned as a man, and has clearly become a leader of his tribe. I see how he is treated with respect and reverence. The 3 scars on the back of his neck, have faded, along with the childish curiosity that brought us together once before. As Obatala releases his net into the sea, he spots something in the distance and starts yelling. I duck behind a large protruding boulder to keep from being seen. He yells again to a group of friends on shore, much too loud for me to understand. I don't want to let him out of my sight, but I have to dive into the water for a moment to soothe my ringing ears. Obatala's yelling doesn't penetrate the ocean depths, and though I've learned to decipher the sounds above the water, human screams still overwhelm my senses. When I surface, I notice beads of sweat forming on Obatala's brow as he frantically rows, collecting his nets from along the reef. He's scared. I see his powerful hands grow unsteady as he pulls up his catch. The source of his terror is invisible from my vantage point. I swim to the far side of the reef for a clear view. 3 ships, much larger than a blue whale, approach from the distance. I have never seen such majesty. Obatala's movements are precise. It's as if his fear has given him mastery as well as speed. There is no longer any hint of easygoing fisherman he normally is. I follow him, not out of fright, but out of curiosity and concern. His muscles flex with the strain of rowing quickly back and forth. I keep my distance. As Obatala nears the beach, he yells something repeatedly to his village. People rush into their homes and gather everything they can carry. He turns back towards the horizon and I duck, but he's completely focused on the ships. His boat tips as he stumbles onto the sand and runs into a windswept shack, all the while repeating his urgent warning as anyone within earshot. The waves are unusually rough, as if a storm is brewing. I dive deeper into the sea and swim into calmer waters. I need to see the ships up close. I surface every once in a while to make sure that I'm on the right course. As I bob above and then beneath the water, I see them. The ships are even larger than I had realized at first glance. Obatala's single-man rowboat cannot compare to the beauty and power of the 3 ships on his fleet. As I get closer, I notice something odd. There's a sickly stench of sweat and waste around the ships. I approach the rear of the first one, and a seaman bends over the edge and vomits into the water. Our eyes meet. His salmon-colored face is marbled with bursted capillaries. Long yellow tresses matted with oil and dirt cling to his shoulders. The coarse growth on his face reflects the red hue of his skin. Suddenly, he pulls a wood and metal object from his waist and points it at me. A sound blasts through the air, and much louder than anything I have ever heard before. I quickly submerge and swim beneath the boat. The blast leaves me unharmed but cuts into a nearby dolphin, who screams underwater as she writhes in pain. I have to hold myself back from catching him in my arms. Nauseated and convulsing with guilt and rage, I am filled with thoughts of revenge. I rush back to the shore to see if there's anything I can do to help Obatala escape. Obatala was absolutely right to be terrified. These strange red men are cruel and fearful beings. What do they want? I cannot stop imagining the horrific things these men are capable of. Water rushes past my ears, creating a constant hum. I have to go and help him. I have to let him know I've just seen. I'm not yet comfortable with using my voice, but as I approach the shore, I yell a warning. Ah! I try to form the words of Obatala's people, but my vocal cords are not coordinated enough. The scurrying villagers stop and squint in disbelief when they see me as they strain to trust their vision. I yell again and flip my fin in urgency. The villagers, caught between their curiosity about me and their terror of what they're fleeing, regain their focus and run quickly farther inland. I yell louder. Obatala emerges from his palm hut. When he sees me, he runs toward the shore and splashes into the water. I continue yelling, trying to form words, desperately attempting to convey the horror of the scene I have just witnessed. As the sea gets deeper, Obatala pulls me into his focus and begins to glide gracefully in my direction. He seems to be aware of nothing but us, ignoring the chaos around him. Treading water, he gazes steadily into my eyes, and his own well up with tears. Gently, sadly, he caresses my face with his weathered hands. I trace the 3 scars on the back of his neck, communicating with my touch that I remember his sacrifice. The tragic scene framing our moment of connection recedes. The red-faced men, the horrific, sick, and the 3 approaching ships seem to disappear. Obatala's face suddenly falls, and he grimaces with fear and regret. He tries to pull away, but it was the opposite effect, as if I'm magnetically drawn closer. I can see that he is resisting the urge to stay by my side, to hold me. Suddenly, he swims away. I reach for him, but he looks toward the ships and commands, "Pirates, go, now." I feel a splash of water hit the side of my face, and I trickle down to the curve of my neck. He splashes me once again and points to the ships in the distance. Obatala floats for a moment more, then turns back to the shore. I sink into the water as my heart sinks in my chest. My throat is tight, and my stomach cramps as I reluctantly slink out to the sea. A voice inside me calls up, "Wake up!" Though I want to ignore the message, I know I have made a decision to save my life as well as his. I raise my numbed state, just in time to witness the ships drop anchor. The men Obatala called pirates pile into small boats, and I can see that most of them are armed with more of those deadly staffs. I dip deep and swim farther down the shore. The scene on land is frantic. The strongest men are ushering the elders, women, and children out of their huts before the approaching boats land. A young boy struggles to untie his baby goat from a tree. He yells out for help. Ignoring him, more of the villagers rush by and head inland. Obatala runs to the boy's side and tries to pull him from the goat. The child tightens his grip. Obatala unleashes a knife from his belt and cuts the goat free. He motions for the child to follow his clan before he scurries behind a hut. I feel hopeless once again. I want to scream and wave to the distant pirates, but surely one would finish me off without a thought. I fantasize about excavating revenge alongside my dolphin friends while the cruel men are still on our turf. But I know we would never be able to reach them in time. I keep watch in distress as the small boats reach the shore. A tall, thin, angular man with a hard face sticks a large pole with a colorful flapping cloth into the sand. The pirates erupt from their boats with a loud roar as they rush in waves across the beach. The village men, women, and children run for their lives. Explosive sounds blast from the pirates' weapons, upsetting the once peaceful sands. Obatala is one of a group of warriors who emerge from their hiding places wielding spears that fly from their hands, but their efforts are useless. They are outnumbered. "Run," I plead, as I watch the pirates close in on my fishermen's people. "Run!" Finally, I have found my voice, and the language that I've listened to for years flies from my mouth as I scream. The able-bodied members of the tribe stay to assist the slower ones, but their good deeds lead to the capture of the entire village. I am overcome by the sheer terror and hopelessness of the sight. The pirates force the tribe back to the beach. Fortunately, they no longer seem interested in harming the villagers. I am relieved when I spot Obatala, until I see him fall to the ground before being dragged by his feet toward the shore. His head dangles lifelessly when the pirates yank him up and attempt to steady him in line with the other villagers. I exhale when I see his face rise once more. White sand cascades down from his woolly cloud of hair and peppers his skin with a thin layer of dust. His arms are held behind his back as the pirates bind his feet and hands together with shiny ropes. Other captives, wearing the same cords, are lined up behind Obatala, bound to one another and driven ahead. Some weep, and some yell to the gods. Others defy their forced submission by refusing to walk, while their captors lead them across the beach. This act of open disobedience earns a strike across the shins from a pirate's smooth, leaden branch. I see a pregnant woman among the villagers, faint from exhaustion and dragged along by her hands and feet. The pirates do not tolerate any captive's attempts to help their fallen companions. In the distance, behind this horrifying scene, another band of pirates has taken up fire, their torches dancing as they ransack huts ablaze. The villagers fall to their knees upon fully realizing their defeat. The men with the torches return with 4 horses they found in the village. The pirates force all of the prisoners back on their feet. The leader, wearing an oversized blue hat, the shape of a canoe, paces back and forth in front of the villagers. He stops in front of Obatala. 2 pirates rush over, unchain Obatala, and shove him closer to their captain. He takes his stick and whacks at the insides of Obatala's ankles to spread his legs apart. Obatala's jaw is clenched so hard that the shape of his face is distorted. The leader grabs at it and inspects his every feature, from the back of his teeth to the undersides of his eyelids. Obatala neither looks away nor fights the man's invasion. The leader violently pushes him back in line and declares something in his grating tongue. He begins to pace again, redirecting his attention towards another of the villagers, handsome, fit, and defiant. The young man looks away. A slight smile crosses the leader's face as he walks up to him. He repeats his inspection of his new victim. The tribesman wrenched back from the man's grasp and spits in his eye. The leader laughs, wipes the spittle from his face, and snarls. A group of pirates lumber over to the young man. They release him from bondage and force him front and center. All the while, he kicks and fights. He gets in a few good jabs, but nothing to set him free from their grasp. The young pregnant woman at the end of the line screams, trying to reach out for him as 6 pirates lay the young man face up in the sand with his arms and legs outstretched. The tribesman calls out for the first time during his ordeal, pleading for protection of the woman and the child within her. I do not think that the pirates understand, but they can see that she is important to him. A pirate takes this cue to rush over, grab her by the hair, and hold her gaze steady toward the young man. The 6 pirates tie each of the human's limbs with a separate rope. They range 4 horses around him and fasten the other ends of the ropes to the horses' necks. His wife screams again and tries to break free from the line. The pirates hold on tight, but it's visibly strained by this tiny woman's strength. I close my eyes and dive underwater. I already know what is to come next. The beauty of the ocean silence mutes the soul-scorching cries raining down from the beach. The black feet of the villagers splash into the water and kick up clouds of sand from the ocean floor. The fog becomes so intense that I am no longer able to see my hand in front of my face. I am forced to swim with my head above water. The red men get into their rowboats and line up alongside the string of villagers. They unravel strong cords from inside their boots and attach them to the shiny rope that connects the prisoners. When each section is secure, they begin to row forward. The villagers choke on the salt water as they struggle to stay afloat, paddling as best as they can with their restrained legs and feet. The pirates laugh and play a game where they push down on the ropes to submerge the prisoners into the sea. The villagers struggle to keep air in their lungs as they are whiplashed into and out of the water, as that amuses the pirates to no end. I can take it no longer. I bash the middle of the last boat with my powerful tail and break the vessel in half. The pirates fall overboard, and I just for a moment feel the satisfaction flow through me before I hear them scream. Within minutes, the pirates reorganize their ranks and continue on their way. Their pace quickens, and they no longer torture the swimming prisoners. I dive alongside the beautiful stream of black bodies until I reach him. I recognize him from his scars, lingering on the 3 horizontal lines marking his neck. Obatala ducks underwater, as if he has felt me coming. He stares at me, making no attempt to free himself from bondage. I know what he wants, what he asks without being able to speak. I mouth, Yemaya. I'm Yemaya. Suddenly he jerked above water, but I remain by his side until he reaches the ship. He manages to dip below the water one final time, and I hold his hand, and I squeeze it before they yank him aboard. I don't want to let go, but I can feel his hand being pulled from mine. Just before his fingers slip from my grasp, he's able to return the gesture, and then his hand is gone. I feel an indescribable emptiness that I know can never be filled by any other. My fate is sealed. He is my destiny. I will follow him. I will find a way to save him. The villagers are worn as the pirates pull them aboard. Their skin, once glistening and black, is now dull gray and water-wrinkled. Their limp forms waver between a place of life and death. Well, I hope you don't feel comfortable after reading that bedtime story. I truly have actually literally never read this book, so I did the best I could with what I had to offer. I do have a pretty chill-ass, calming voice, so I hope that when you're reading this, you're in a place where you can receive that message and also maybe relax later. Anita Kopacz, Shallow Waters, A Love Letter to Yemaya. That was the prologue and chapter 1. If you want more, you can either find a way to get this at your local bookstore or any online thrifty bookstores that are supportive of the work that I do, because I think so far it's pretty clear what I'm into in this channel, and so there it is. If this intrigued you, please get it. It's amazing. Also, if you want me to read more, I also can do that. Like, it's on the table. I did it. I feel fine with it. If you want it, If you wanna come and get it, na 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 na, na 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 na, na na na. If you're ready, come and get it, na na na. Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, that's the vibe. Listen, like, you know where to find me. Comment section. If you see this video and you're like, actually, I would really like for you to read, like, fucked up things to me before I go to bed. Hey, listen, there's a niche for everything. You let me know. But, I like to read, so I like to storytell and I like to read, so, yeah. Cool with me either way. But this was fun. I love y'all. Let's have some fun. This vibe is sick. I wanna. Actually, no, that's it. That's it. The vibe is sick. I like this vibe. I've been trying to sing every video, but like on the real, like at the time that I'm recording this, it is an ungodly hour of the morning for me. Which, like, depending on what phase of my life you know me in, this is either shocking to you or like obvious to you. And so do with that if you want to do anything with it, but I'm like, I can do it, I don't want to do it, and I'm not gonna keep doing it for much longer. But like, I feel like I have to say a couple more things, like, I liked the vibe of that book, so like, I think that's another reason why I'm offering it, is that like, if you liked the vibe, I also liked the vibe. I could actually, you know, I'm going to keep reading this book, obviously, but if you'd like me to read it with you and we can just kind of do that kind of book club with this, like, it kind of got a cool vibe to it. It's tragic, it's gorgeous storytelling, it's romantic, it's heartbreaking, and that was just prologue, chapter 1. I felt a lot of these emotions, but I also felt there was still like a version of it, and I think maybe because I have insight into Yemaya, like I collaborate with her in a really deep way, and so I think that might be the reason why I felt really comfortable in this space. But I do truly believe that, you know, independent of like the knowledge precursor, like it has a vibe of hopefulness that amidst the tragedy and the reality of the tragedy, everything will be okay, I think. I like that. So yeah. I hate this shit. It's so fucking annoying. It's like I'm still stuck here, sitting here, like I know I really want to be fucking done with these videos, but I also have a feeling I'm supposed to say something. And I'm just like, well, what? And they're just like, shut the fuck up and listen. You ever, like, have a relationship with someone who, like, takes a long time to buffer before responding to something? Like, a question, like, you'll ask a question, and they'll just be like, for, like, 5 minutes, and then they'll be like, so here's my response. And you'll be like, what the fuck? I forgot you were here. So, like, I think that's my relationship with my spiritual team when I'm, like, running out of, like, human emotion spoons. Maybe that's what I needed to tell you. Hey, listen, homie, you're not crazy. Bam Bam, like, what happened. And as a result, you have developed some pretty rad coping strategies. And it may not make sense to a lot of people, and hey, maybe that's not necessarily sustainable. Maybe we don't go to bed with, like, kind of melancholy stories. But if it's something that is familiar and safe to you, I don't see why we can't try a new method of reading together. I'm willing to do that, actually. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I have, like, bone problems. I think that's my cue. Bye. I love you. Nah.